We are live.
Hello and welcome to Morning's Culture. Good morning, Sir. Good morning, hopefully Grain. And good morning to everyone who is watching us live and will watch us recorded. You all are welcome to the Morning's Culture. Okay, not the Morning's Culture, but Morning's Culture. And
Uh,
this is the space. We are trying our best to create that space where you can not only be yourself, but you can be more, all caps, more than yourself. Your expected, your assumed, your conventional self, your old self, or your compromised self. Here you can be more than that. And we do experience it every single day when people come and join us via Zoom. Yes, very rare, but on Facebook. You can join us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Substack, and of course here on Facebook in the group Sassy. Sassy is also, that was the first stage of creating that community of moreness for everyone. And now we are creating this special space. It's a next step towards creating the moreness culture. This is space we are doing live, or in Norma's words, we are doing open, which I really like that. Okay, it's open, and we are sharing this with the intent to have and share the space where you can be more than your usual self. This is what we are experiencing, and this is what we are sharing. Again, right now, like, okay, since last few months, and of course, it is going to be a very long process. We are busy with doing the capital R reading of Don Juan's Carlos Castaneda's books about Don Juan. I always get confused a bit in saying that, but this is what we are doing with a very specific intent to not just do the capital R reading of Carlos' books, but
well,
to connect with Don Juan, to connect with his intent to share moreness.
yeah,
He can, of course, his mediums can vary. We might be in attunement with that or not. It doesn't matter. The intent to
yeah,
share the awareness is there, and this is what we want to connect with. We want to know Don Juan. I personally want to connect with Don Juan also, not only with his intent, but with him. I just want to experience that. Okay, of course, I do have my own limitations. I do have my own priorities, but still, there is uh, no space of fear, reluctance, or uh, or a fear of compromise when we have the intent, clear intent of capital C connectedness. When you have that,
uh,
you are completely safe, because capital C connection can only be made when you are capital R receptive. And capital R receptivity is a
yeah,
huge deal. I personally feel that I cannot be 100% receptive if I don't have at least some piece of me. You need,
correct,
it's a
correct,
requirement. It's
correct.
very
And
crucial,
and
very
and
necessary.
and independence of being both.
Yes, both, exactly. So this is what we are busy with, and now we are getting live on TikTok also. So this is what we are busy with, and we will continue soon. In the meantime, I just want to share my thought of the day, because a lot of things happening in our lives, of course. Like everyone else, we also have a busy life. We are doing the, of course, we have our business, we have our other things also in life, like family,
Yeah,
and uh, and normal issues like health, and of course like busyness of the mundane life and all that. We are we are practicing, I'm including myself. It is basically this is Sil's way of being, his way of life. I am including myself because I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to implement in every aspect of my life also. So that's why I'm including. And again, I'm a privileged one here. Very shamelessly, I'm the privileged one here. So I'm including myself in this, that we are trying to implement the moreness concept in every aspect of our life. So we had a situation since first Sil had this, and it was a very peculiar, very anomalous, very unusual, unexpected kind of a situation. And in normal circumstances, in normal way of being, that could be very upsetting. like really irritating and disappointing. And yes, one could feel like, oh, it's an insult. Okay, it's a waste of time and energy and everything. But because Sil is not in that particular or like a specific way of being, I'm not saying in any derogatory way, but he is different. That's it. So no up and down, no big and small and all that
There you
nonsense,
go.
but just
There you go.
different. And his reactions were different. And he was like, okay,
Wow.
so why this is, and I asked him like, okay, why this is happening? Because there must be some reason that universe did something. Universe has a very fantastic humor, sense of humor, really, really fantastic. Sometimes you get like, really, seriously, why this is happening? And you laugh because there is no reason, like other than just be gentle with yourself and be light. Okay, don't take too seriously everything. So sometimes it happens, but it's very rare. At least this is my experience. Mostly, of course, even in that situation, there is always a lesson. Always a lesson. Lesson, or you can say some awareness. So my
Yeah.
awareness about those things is that not out of ego, but out of appropriateness, we need to consider
There you go.
ourselves very honestly and very precisely. Not only with honestly, like honesty, but also with preciseness. No more, no
Yeah.
less. And it
Yeah.
reminds me a very famous meme that someone was okay, a father handed over a watch to a son and say that, okay, this is your thing, and then you can just go and sell it and then tell me that, okay, what they cost it. So the guy went to a pawn shop. No, he first went to somewhere else anyway. So they were trying to, yes, it was a pawn shop, and they say, okay, we will give you $20, $20 for that. And he came and he says, okay, they are saying $20. And I said, okay, now go to a jeweler. And then we went there, and he says, okay, 150 something, because it's expensive. And the father says, okay, no, now go to someone who is an expert in this. And that was the time the boy's mind was blown up by the cost, because he said, oh, it's more than $10,000. And okay, yes. And the father says that watch was same, you were same, but you were not in the precise, accurate or precise or appropriate place. So it is not the fault of the pawn shop person or the goldsmith. No, they were doing exactly what they know, and they were doing acting according to their awareness. It's not their fault. Even
Yeah.
if of course it was not this boy's fault, but it was
Yeah.
about the learning the appropriateness. If I am, if I don't want something in my life like unruliness, if I don't want unsophisticatedness, if I don't want the unawareness, deliberate unawareness, if I don't want superiority paradigm in my life, if I don't want all these things, we all have a big list that, okay, this is what I don't want. Then of
Yeah.
course, it in a reflective way, it shows what I really want. Okay, I don't want unsophisticatedness, which means that, okay, I want sophisticated environment and people and
Yeah.
behavior and aspects. So
Yeah.
by default, of course, I know what I really want in my life. And then what I want, I have to be exactly like, I need to be sophisticated, I need to be polite, I need to be appropriate, and I need to make myself aware of things. Then I have to make some effort to be there and must not get involved in which is unnecessary. If it is coming via attunement, then yes, of course, you have to do that. But if it is not, then I don't need to communicate. That's why first time in my life, I can say that, okay, I understand the concept of that I don't need to be good with everyone. All I really need to be is not be negative with them. That difference was
Exactly.
that nuance was not coming into my mind. And then yesterday or today actually, so it just get like boom. Okay, so now I understand that I don't need to be friend with everyone who is coming, and then okay, they are good and nice people. Yes, they must be more than me. But if I understand according to my awareness and understanding, that they are not appropriate people for me, I must not include them in my inner circle of my personal being, not inner circle in terms of, oh, special friend or no, just my personal inner circle. Yes, so I don't need to include everyone into that. I have to be very thorough about that, because I have been doing a lot of work to protect myself, to not get indulged into nonsense. So now I need to protect that. And that was something this was again a way of impeccability's magic and moreness, that today it was like, boom, I don't need to be good with everyone. All I need is to not to be negative with everyone. And it's
Exactly.
freedom right there. No obligation to be nice, no obligation to be friend with everyone, no obligation to accept everything, no obligation to be everywhere. A lot of things.
Exactly. Appropriateness, in other words.
Yes,
Appropriateness
absolute.
is a key conception in mourners culture. And it
Yes.
is a conception that is missing from Don Juan. As
Wow.
wonderful as Don Juan is, it's missing. This concept of appropriateness, it's not anywhere mentioned in any of the books. So it's missing both from Don Juan and Carlos. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
it's fundamental. Now, appropriateness, understand it to be not proper. Yeah. There's nothing to do with
Exactly.
proper. Proper is something else entirely. Appropriateness is determined by taking into cognizance, understanding, appreciating, being aware of the context in which you wish to act, whether it be your inner context, your immediate, intermediate, global, universal, also context of time. Yes, when, over the entirety of your life could be the context. Yes. So we want to take all context into consideration, and then all of your goals, your motivations, your intents. That's going to determine what's appropriate. The combination, taking all of that and putting it all together, right? All right, let's get going and continue from where we were last time. I just want to say hi to Adam. I believe you were here before, Adam. So, hi, mate. Very nice. So cool. Saying hi to Adam over here. And also, tell me that. All right. We are going to, I don't care for telling. Tell me that. But all right. In your case, we'll make an exception. We like sharing rather than telling. And we also much prefer showing rather than telling. Yes. That's just part of mourners culture. As you telling somebody, no matter how profound what you're telling is, whoever's listening is hearing, is being told. And when you grab onto that, you're gonna now take on what somebody else believes is important. No, you've got to make it important to yourself. You've got to decide, this is what I want. You got to make it your own. You got to put it into your own words. And that is core to mourners culture. Yes. This making it your own and not being told. Yeah. It's vitally, crucially important. Vitally, crucially important that we don't do this. Yeah. Very, very important. Otherwise, no matter how magical it is, you're going to be living somebody else's life, not your own. Right? So very cool that you guys are here. Very cool. Before we get going, real quick, let me just check on IG. All right. IG sleeping today. Nobody on IG. Also, usually on TikTok, we get dozens and dozens of people. I don't know. I've yet to figure out what the difference is. Because we had this one time as well, and the other times we had dozens coming. Yeah, I think last time we were on was like 63 people just in the beginning there. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, but strange to me. I'm not sure what makes the difference. If anybody knows, please let me know. All right. Do you want to read, Bina? We were up here. What do you want me to
Sir,
read?
no, please read, because it will put a strain on my throat.
All right. All right. All right. There we go. This is we're in the introduction for book 2, and we're going over a recap, right, of book 1 and what's going on. So this is Don Juan telling Carlos why he put, in inverted commas, the apprenticeship, which he starts it again, but okay, the second cycle, as he calls it. The reason you got scared and quit is because you felt too damn important, he said, explaining my previous role. Feeling important makes one heavy, clumsy, and vain. To be a man of knowledge, sorry, my apologies. To be a person of knowledge, I changed this for Don Juan. I don't want to be party to inadvertent misogyny. Yeah? Don Juan is not a misogynist, but yet by saying this in the masculine, we perpetuate this cultural norm, and that makes everything masculine. And it's like, no, 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 sorry, no, 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 yep, not going to do that. Yeah, not cool, not cool. All right, so to be a person of knowledge, one needs to be light and fluid. Yes, absolutely crucial. And this is Mourner's culture. Mourner's culture, and Mourner's culture has many components to it. Yes, the foundation is way of impeccability. You might think, wow, way of impeccability. Just from the name alone, I can pull much. Yeah, the name itself, by implication, if you think it through, wow, that's like super serious there. That's sobriety, the true meaning of sobriety, nothing to do with alcohol, right? We've got to pay attention. Mourner's culture is about developing your ability to be discerning. Yeah, we all have this. We just need to practice it and develop it and look at implications. But when you really get into way of impeccability, you'll see its goal, its purpose is joy, real joy, substantiated joy, joy without vulnerability. Oh. Joy where you've minimized the risks of the unforeseen, right? It's not a fragile joy. Most people who pursue joy only or pleasure only, it's very fragile. Circumstances change, they don't have ideal circumstances, then there's no joy, right? So it's got to be very fragile, got to be just right, much too fragile, not way of impeccability, yes? We are able to extract moreness in all conditions, in all circumstances, from everything. We're always living in joy. Everything is brilliant and awesome. Yeah. And it's, of course, deliberate living is the point of it. Yes. And that to live deliberately, when you're living deliberately, you're not going to be heavy or clumsy or vain. Yes. And it's very hard to be deliberately self-important. Wow. I never said that in that precise way before. It's a duh, but I never said that in that exact way before. What do you think of that, Bina? In the light of sometimes me, sometimes you, this is it is a Pakistani soap opera that we're busy watching, and it's quite profound in this that it gives an exemplification of attitudes and motivations that are messed up, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
some
yes,
ordinary messed up and some not so ordinary messed up, right? But it's
yes,
psychologically, it is a fantastic show, right? So you can
yes,
watch it on YouTube. It's called Kabi, Kabhi,
yes,
and then there's
yes.
more to it. But if you just search for Kabi and then Main, it's Main, but it's pronounced May, right? So, but if you just search for that, you'll watch this. Now, and we were just
Which
talking
means
about this,
sometimes
right? And if you
sometimes me, and sometimes you.
right. So it's Kabi Main, Kabi Thum, right? The
Tum.
full title,
No, it's
right,
tum.
Bina? Tum, not Thum,
Yes,
Tum. Okay. So Kabi Me, Kabi Tum. All right. Anyway,
yes,
but you can search for this, right? I mean, if you just search Pakistani soap opera currently playing, that's sweeping the nation, that everybody's watching, most popular soap opera in Pakistan right now, that will come up, right? And you can find it on
yes.
YouTube. Okay, but as a psychological study, it's profound. The reason I bring it up is when you pay attention, you're going to see the characters, how self-importance really bites them. And I'm talking about the nice characters and the villains, right? Every single character, all of them across the board are bitten by it. Yeah. I mean, look at where I'm watching, right, Bina? Take the main
Yes.
hero, right? Mustafa, he takes what his brother says and he's all put out. What is that but self-importance?
Yes.
See? Self-importance in a peculiar, distorted, upside down way. Yes, but
Yes.
that's how self-importance gets to us. Yeah, yeah. It
Exactly.
made him heavy, clumsy, and vain. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, but now let's come back to my point that I was making. In way of impeccability, yes, it is way of
Yes.
impeccability is not a belief system, right? Way of impeccability, the foundation, the cornerstone of modernist culture, right? So, what is way of impeccability? It is a toolbox for deliberate living. A toolbox for deliberate living. It's a set of tools that we employ that enable us to live deliberately. Now, just take that point, right? That's the subtitle. Way of impeccability, a toolbox for deliberate living. I put a tremendous amount of thought and energy and intent into the title and the subtitle. Why? Because I want just those two to be enough to go further. Just those two. That's it. That's it. No more needed. Yeah. And if you think about it, yes, if you really think it through and think about it, okay, way of impeccability. Oh, I get this. It's a way of living, a way of being where impeccability is the core, the glue that ties everything together. All right, wonderful. Now, a toolbox for deliberate living. Oh, right away, this is not a belief system, a set of tools. But deliberate living, that concept in and of itself, you don't need any more. If all of those characters, right, in the show, if they start practicing deliberate living, that self-importance goes right out the window. How are you deliberately self-important when you're aware of this, right? Because when you're deliberate, you're aware of things. It's very difficult to be deliberately pompous and arrogant and full of nonsense and all stuffy and fussy and all of this. It's very difficult. Yes, Bina? Bina? Where'd you go? I want to hear your
Yes.
thoughts and comments. I want to hear your thoughts and comments on deliberate living and self-importance. If you're living deliberately, can you be self-important?
No way. Not one single person
No.
can say it. Nope. No.
Because you cannot be deliberately ridiculous. And self-importance
Exactly.
is ridiculous. It's absurd. And we cannot be deliberately ridiculous and absurd and foolish and in a bubble and so vanity and arrogance, all of that stuff. You cannot be it deliberately. You have to be in a bubble in order to be it. Uh, See, deliberate living takes care of all crap and nonsense. Yeah, very important. All right, let's
Yes.
continue. Let's continue with our reading. Don Juan's particular interest in his second cycle of apprenticeship was to teach me to see. And I want to emphasize here, whenever we see from now on, whenever we hear see, think perceive. Don't make the same mistake that Don Juan said that whoever his lineage, whoever his teachers who came before him, at some point somebody put this word seeing. And I just keep on calling it seeing, well, because we tend to be visually predominant and that's why they call it that, right? But it's a flaw and it's a mistake and it shouldn't be. It should really be perceiving, right? Because that's what it is. So
Yes.
let's be careful here not to confuse us. And so when you see seeing, think perceiving, right? And I might even read it as perceiving initially now so that we get used to this, right? To perceiving. Don Juan's particular interest in his second cycle of apprenticeship was to teach me to perceive. Apparently, in his system of knowledge, there was the possibility of making a semantic difference between seeing and looking, a semantic difference between perceiving and capital P perceiving in Mona's language, yeah, the language of conceptuality. We need to conceive of what's going on here. And regular perception, which is what we do in our daily life, this is very different to deliberate, detailed, nuanced, sophisticated, discerning perception. Yes, perception using every possible sense that we have and beyond those that we even know we have, right?
Yes.
We just believe we have these five, six senses, however many sometimes people say, right? But we have more that we
Yes.
not that aren't activated yet, right? We are capable of more, in other words. That's why it's called monoculture. One of the reasons, yeah. There's more. There's more to us. There's more to us than we can imagine. Yeah. So when we look at this now, we are talking about capital P perceiving. So in Don Juan, apparently in his system of knowledge, there was a possibility of making a semantic difference between little p perceiving, regular perceiving, and capital P perceiving as two distinct manners of perceiving. Now, yeah, Carlos actually says perceiving, but he doesn't click this. He doesn't go all the way because his brain is not attuned to understanding the importance of the language of conceptuality. He's intuiting it. He's getting there by that whole sentence, right? But he doesn't take it all the way. One of the tools, the primary tools of wave impeccability, is thinking things through to the end. I have to shout that every time. It's always all caps. Yeah? And looking at things from multiple perspectives, multiple italicized, yeah? Emphasized. So I'm gonna read it in his language here. Looking, or little p perceiving, referred to the ordinary way in which we are accustomed to perceive the world, while seeing, or capital P perceiving, entailed a very complex process by virtue of which a person of knowledge allegedly perceives the essence of the things of the world. Now here, see how important language is here. When we let go of this word seeing and looking, and we get to perceiving and capital P perceiving, and the point of capital P perceiving is to connect and know and be aware of and understand the essence of the things of the world. What is the essence of things? It's their intent. Or you could say their basic energy configuration, which may be absent a specific intent. But when you see the basic energy configuration, you know exactly what that thing is all about. Rina,
Yes. Yes.
any comment? Sorry, I'm
Oh,
cueing you. I don't know, maybe you're not looking at the video, but I'm cueing you with like, Rina.
yes. Okay. But I'm listening because this is something very, very profound for me. And you know that I do get into that observing mode. So I'm listening. But I
Correct,
don't want to make
correct,
comments right
correct.
away. Yes.
But I'm encouraging at least initial feedback of the initial thoughts of exploration. Okay, I want to know more about this. Yes, this grabs my
Exactly.
attention. This makes, see, that's
That's
what
right.
I'm here. I
That's
want to hear.
This is exactly why I'm listening and I'm just want to know more about this.
I tried, people. I tried. I want to hear, Bina. I want to hear those thoughts of yours. All right. Anyway, in order to present the intricacies of this learning process in a readable form, I have condensed long passages of questions and answers, and thus I have edited my original field notes. It is my belief, however, that at this point my presentation cannot possibly detract from the meaning of Don Juan's teachings. The editing was aimed at making my notes flow as conversation does, so they would have the impact I desired. That is to say, I wanted by means of a reportage to communicate to the reader the drama and directness of the field situation. Each section I have set as a chapter was a session with Don Juan. As a rule, that's interesting. I don't remember him ever saying session. It's not a memory. But way of impeccability is set up in modules, and each module is comprised of sessions. Because that's
Yes.
typically when, as a participant, you come and do the program. We do them as a session, right? That's why the term. I don't remember this term here with us using this. So, very cool. Nice overlap. Nice overlap. Just fun. Just fun. Um, I have set each section I have set as a chapter was a session with Don Juan. As a rule, he always concluded each of our sessions on an abrupt note. Thus, the dramatic tone of the ending of each chapter is not a literary device of my own. It was a device proper of Don Juan's oral tradition. It seemed to me to be a mnemonic device that helped me to retain the dramatic quality and importance of the lessons. Yeah. All right. Now, this mnemonic device, Yes, it is also a mnemonic device, but Carlos confuses mnemonics with and memory, in other words, with learning. He's part of our culture worldwide, pretty much, where schooling and learning and education is all about stuffing things into your head to remember. This is the
Yes.
this is the intent to it. You got to remember, 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 learn, learn, learn. Learn is equivalent to remembering, not equivalent to understanding. If you understand, there's very little usually that you need to remember. Sometimes you need to remember key points, but really, I use this example many times. Who remembers the instructions of how to ride a bicycle? Once you've learned how to ride a bicycle, no one. Memory is irrelevant. You don't remember how to ride a bicycle. There's nothing in your memory about. It's not mnemonics that helps you. It's physical. You know how to ride a bicycle, you get on and you ride. That's it. End of story. Yeah. Because you
Yes.
understood it physically, viscerally, in way of impeccability. This is what we are aiming for. When I was saying earlier, you've got to make it your own. When you make it your own, you put it into your body to incorporate knowledge, incorporate, right? To take into your corporeality of body, right? To
Yes.
take it into your body. This is what we want to do with our knowledge. Then there's no need for it to memory, right? And it becomes innate, it becomes direct, like riding a bicycle. I'm not going to go, oh, I've got to do this, I got to do that, and now I'm riding the bicycle every time. That's clumsy. I'm going to take you, I mean, maybe in a bicycle it's relatively simple, but other more complex things. No. Think about your language. You just speak. You don't have to think, I've got to make my lips in this way and that way. You know, I do know people, I do know people who, when they speak, they have to consciously and deliberately think of how to form their lips because they, they deaf, for instance. Yeah. I
Oh,
once played chess. Yeah. 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 I once played chess with somebody who was deaf, dumb, and blind. I don't know if they use the word dumb anymore, but all right, from the pinball wizard, yeah, Tom the pinball wizard, deaf, dumb, and blind kid. That's where it comes from for me. But anyway, maybe mute is the word. But but I play chess with him, and we communicate. He said, "How is this possible?" Yeah, see, moreness. Just because you cannot imagine it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm not saying something tricky. I'm going to explain in a moment, right? So I played chess with a fellow who was born deaf, dumb, and mute also. Yeah. They taught him is a fantastic place where I lived. Right? It had a school both for the deaf and for the blind, and it was both of those were the largest in the southern hemisphere at the time. I know they still are not, but nonetheless, right? Very unique place, Worcester, South Africa. You can go look it up. Right? And so how did we communicate? This we did. We did communicate. This is how. His name was David, and he was a machinist making baskets. That was his profession. Right? Deaf, dumb, mute. He'd put his hand on my face like this. Yeah. And he would read my lips with his hand and know what I
wow.
said. Isn't that the most incredible thing?
Yes.
And of course, when he spoke, he couldn't hear himself speaking. He would make the sound, right? And through trial and error and education, they had taught him how to make the sounds. He had to learn how to make the words, right, by moving his mouth and tongue and things in a particular way. It's just mind blowing to me, absolutely mind blowing
Exactly.
that
Yes.
this could be bonus. In other words, the takeaway from that is the world does not work the way we think it does. Isn't that incredible? And I
It
played
is.
chess with him. Spoke to him.
Yes.
David was his name. Yeah. And he
Yes.
was a machinist. He was a machinist making fancy baskets from the machines. What an incredible place that was, that, school for the blind and school for the deaf there. In two separate places in the town, but the school for the blind was very close to where I stayed, actually. So I could walk there and go into him. And anyway. The mourners, right? Now we get back to this, right? I want to looking this. So perceiving, capital P perceiving, entailed a very complex process. Not really. It's not actually complex. It's complex. You made it complex, but it's not. It's actually very simple, right? So I'm skipping ahead because Carlos gets things wrong, and then if you latch onto his perceptions, you end up with his biases that you have to now undo, and I want to prevent that, right? And it's very helpful to not fall into Carlos's perceptual traps and his awareness traps, his lack of discernment traps, right? So perceiving entailed a process by virtue of which a person of knowledge perceives the essence of the things of the world. This is very key, yes, to be able to perceive the essence of the things of the world. In order to present the intricacies of this learning process in a readable form, oh, I read all that. Sorry. It was a device proper to Don Juan's oral tradition, this ending on emphasis. That's the point I was making. It's not a mnemonic device. It is an emphasis device. Emphasis literally rewires your brain. Let me repeat that. Emphasis literally rewires your brain. When you emphasize things, nodes grow, synapses connect, and they connect to more, and that connects to more, and your brain reconfigures itself by emphasis. And this is what Don Juan's doing. Whether he's aware of this, there's no evidence that he's aware of the neurological aspect of it, but he certainly understands emphasis. Yeah. For the longest time since I was a kid, I understood the power of emphasis. I did not know until relatively recently, 5, 10 years ago, I'm not sure exactly how long now, where I saw a neurological study that said emphasis literally. I'm like, well, duh, okay, it made total sense to me. I didn't know specifically, but now that I do, it's very important because it adds emphasis to emphasis. Yeah? So this ending on that key point, it is an emphasis point that Don Juan is doing. He wants to get Carlos's brain focused on that. Yeah. Carlos has a lot of agendas personally, and it makes him a bit hard to, as an apprentice, to communicate to connect to, and he learns slowly. But Carlos is a gift from the universe to us. When we understand this, when we understand the greater attunement gift, Carlos, being the most obtuse and dense student with all these other agendas, and he gives us 14 books of all of this stuff that Don Juan is spreading out. All right, now not all, some of them are a recap book and stuff like that, but the majority of the books are there because Carlos is kind of dense and slow to learn. So we get the full range of all of Don Juan's sophistication coming to bear. Yeah? It's quite wonderful. Certain explanations are needed, however, to make my reportage cogent, since its clarity depends on the elucidation of a number of key concepts or key units I want to emphasize. This choice of emphasis is congruous with my interest in social science. He's an anthropologist. Yeah, we're kind of saying it in a very mellow way there. It is perfectly possible that another person with a different set of goals and expectations would single out concepts entirely different from those I have chosen myself. During the second cycle of apprenticeship, Don Juan made a point of assuring me that the use of the smoking mixture was the indispensable prerequisite to perceiving. Therefore, I had to use it as often as possible. Only the smoke can give you the necessary speed to catch a glimpse of that fleeting world, he said. With the aid of the psychotropic mixture, he produced in me a series of states of non-ordinary reality. The main feature of such states, in relation to what Don Juan seemed to be doing, was a condition of inapplicability. Wow, interesting. I don't remember that. That's very interesting. But again, it's Carlos's language, and it's a bit inapplicable, so don't worry too much about it. What I perceived in those states of altered consciousness was incomprehensible and impossible to interpret by means of our everyday mode of understanding the world. In other words, The condition of inapplicability entailed the cessation of the pertinence of my worldview. What was I saying all throughout book one? The point of these, the power plants, the hallucinogens, and this connection to alternate reality was to collapse Carlos's worldview. The cessation of the pertinence of my worldview. And Carlos is clinging to that worldview for dear life. He clings and clings and clings and clings. And even now that he says that this was, right, this condition of inapplicability, in other words, the intent behind it, he's writing it here, but he doesn't acquiesce to that intent. Quite fascinating, right? At least this is after this, but we're going to see there's still book 3 to come. So it's a bit peculiar. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. And this is why I keep repeating the world does not work the way we think it does. We need to understand our worldview is massively limited. Massively limited. We need to make space for more. We need to make space for more. Yeah? Very, very, very important. Let me just check something real quick here. I don't know what. It doesn't seem like we're connecting on TikTok. I mean, just Adam and Tommy Dat came and no one else. So are we still live? Yeah, we are. Well, there it reconnects now. But yeah, we're live. I don't understand. All right. Here's what it is. Don Juan used this condition of inapplicability of the states of non-ordinary reality in order to introduce a series of preconceived new units of meaning. Carlos getting back to his intellectual academic stuff again here. Units of meaning were all the single elements pertinent to the knowledge Don Juan was striving to teach me. I've called them units of meaning because they were the basic conglomerate of sensory data and their interpretations on which more complex meaning was constructed. You know, he can't let go of this ideal of this academic pursuit and ideal, right? It's very important to him. He's quite in love with this. One example of such a unit is the way in which the physiological effect of the psychotropic mixture was understood. It produced a numbness and loss of motor control that was interpreted in Don Juan's system as an act performed by the smoke, which in this case was the ally in order to remove the body of the practitioner. Units of meaning were grouped together in a specific way, and each block thus created formed what I have called a sensible interpretation. Obviously, there has to be an endless number of possible sensible interpretations that are pertinent to sorcery that a sorcerer must learn to make. In our day-to-day life, we are confronted with an endless number of sensible interpretations pertinent to it. A simple example could be the no longer deliberate interpretation, which we make scores of times every day, of the structure we call room. Yeah, we just take it for granted. We've become acclimatized. We've normalized room. But when you were a baby, you had to learn to understand room. It was all foreign to you in the beginning, yeah? It is obvious that we have learned to interpret the structure we call room in terms of room. Thus, room is a sensible interpretation because it requires that at the time we make it, we are cognizant in one way or another of all the elements that enter into its composition. Let me stop here for a second. Why is the language of monist culture called the language of conceptuality? It is an alternate name for way of impeccability. You could say way of impeccability or the language of conceptuality. Because look at exactly what Carlos is saying here. Yes, right? He says that thus room is a sensible interpretation because it requires that at the time we make it, we are cognizant in one way or another of all the elements that enter into its composition. We may be cognizant of all the elements that comprise room, but that's cognizance of the elements. Conceptionality is cognizance of the conceptual process itself. Conceptionality is cognizance of the conceptual process itself. If we understand conceiving, which is an abstract way of thinking, abstract way of being, abstract way of perceiving, abstract way of cognizing, you're taking abstract elements and you put them together. The moment you start to think abstract, you can apply this in any situation. That's what abstract is. It's the commonality between different things. Yeah. And now you can use the abstract of abstracting and put it together. And it makes that I don't have to go into room each time and learn this from scratch. I can apply the, okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting elements, I'm looking for similarity, and I understand it and I do it and I just apply it in the next situation again. Life is very easy, right? Because conceiving is an act of creation, an act of putting things together to make sense. Yes, act of putting something into existence. And when we understand this is what we do with the energy that is the basic raw energy of the world, and in order to perceive anything, you need to conceive. It's a huge statement I just made. In order to perceive, we need to be able to first conceive. Without the ability to conceive, we will not perceive. And we're going to see this in Carlos, how he struggles to perceive because he cannot conceive of alternates. Yeah, this is his struggle. And if you see it in book 1 also. Yeah, very, very big deal. Very big deal. Yeah. Bina, are you still with me? In any time.
Sorry, I was just, no. I was just talking. I was saying yes, 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 and I was mute. Sorry.
Okay. All right. All right. All right.
This
System of
idea
sense.
is, sorry, you gave me something very huge here right now.
Oh,
And
listen, I'm listening. I'm listening. Go ahead. Share.
yeah, in order to perceive, you need to conceive. Like this is huge.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. And we
Yes,
don't want to learn to conceive specifically. We want to learn to conceive as an abstract ability, as a totality. Yes. We want to
yes,
learn the skill of conception, not the skill to conceive room or book or whatever. See? Because that
yes,
you learn it once and then you get to the next thing and you have to start all over again. No, we want to learn the abstract skill of conception. And that's where the language of conception comes from. Because it's an abstract language that allows you to apply it in any circumstance. Why it's so potent. Appropriateness, it will apply in any reality. Appropriateness applies in any reality. The rules of the game may be different, but that's it. See, if you think of games, when I go and play a different game, right, and you want to be appropriate in the game, well, you learn the rules of the game. Very simple. And then you play accordingly, yes? Well, you decide whether you want to break them or not, but you first got to know what they are, right? You understand the flow of things, the pattern, the rhythm of it, etc. Right? And we don't have to go and literally learn the rules. If you're playing games, yeah, you pick it up fairly quickly. Sometimes you do need to go and learn to know the rules specifically. Right? It all depends on the game. But I'm talking about like video games now. You know, like MMOs. Once you know the basic way they work, you don't have to know all the details. You can. It's relatively self-explanatory, and you adapt and adjust fairly quickly. Right? Any gamer knows if they've played enough games, the new game they learn it fairly quickly. Yeah? Because they've learned gaming. See the abstract conception of gaming, and there's a similarity. Conceptuality, very, very powerful. So yes, but in order to perceive, we think we perceive everything there is when we don't. Yeah. Why? Because you cannot even conceive of it. Preposterousness. Preposterousness. In our daily world, yeah, there is people doing preposterous things, right? And we hear them say and talk about the stuff. But our brain says, no, that's too preposterous. That can't be so. Nobody can be that preposterous. And therefore, we don't perceive the nefariousness of their behavior because it's too preposterous for most people's brains to even contemplate. So they cannot conceive that somebody can be that absurd, that ridiculous, that outrageous, that egregious, and that preposterous. They cannot conceive of it. And therefore, they don't perceive that, and they just it just never enters their mind, and they just accept surface nonsense that's being said, and they end up following these ridiculous people, and they have this blind allegiance to them because of mentality of opposites. If they're not preposterous and egregious and outrageous and criminal, etc., and lying and deceiving, well, then they must be okay. They must be good, as like they say they are. Yeah. So they end up becoming followers of these ridiculous people. It's quite astonishing. We cannot conceive, we cannot perceive. And these good people being led astray because they're so good, they cannot conceive of somebody being so outrageously, egregiously horrible and pathetic as well. It's quite astonishing. Yeah.
Sometimes it helps.
I'm getting a message from TikTok. It's detected that the live chat didn't appear on the screen in the past 2 minutes. Oh, it's struggling to connect, I guess. Okay. Let me just say hi. Maybe that will revive it. I don't know. TikTok, you're a bit odd. You got very odd sensibilities. Right. In our day, right, okay. A system of sensible interpretation is, in other words, the process by virtue of which a practitioner is cognizant of all units of meaning necessary to make assumptions, deductions, predictions, etc., about all the situations pertinent to his activity. And this is why language of conceptuality is so potent, because it provides the abstract elements, not the specific elements. Specific only allows you to know how to conceive in that particular situation. The next time you get to a new one, you have to learn all over again. Abstract allows you to transfer the learning, the experience of the first one to the second, and then you keep abstracting, and then after a while, it's very easy. And this is what we actually do when with room, to use Carlos as an example. You don't relearn room, but you're not remembering the specifics of one room to another because they aren't, the rooms are all different, right? But yet we say, oh, that's a room and that's a room. How? By abstracting, by connecting the abstract elements, seeing the similarity, and when those similarities are enough, then okay, it's a room. Yeah? Understanding the psychology, this nuance of it's very important. Yeah. By
Yes.
practitioner, I mean a participant who has an adequate knowledge of all, or nearly all, the units of meaning involved in his particular system of sensible interpretation. Don Juan was a practitioner, that is. He was a sorcerer who knew all the steps of his sorcery. As a practitioner, he attempted to make his system of sensible interpretation accessible to me. Such an accessibility, in this case, was equivalent to a process of re-socialization in which new ways of interpreting perceptual data were learned. I was the stranger, the one who lacked the capacity to make intelligent and congruous interpretations of the units of meaning proper to sorcery. Don Juan's task as a sorcerer making his system accessible to me was to disarrange a particular certainty which I share with everyone else, the certainty that our common sense views of the world are final. They are not. Through the use of psychotropic plants and through well-directed contacts between the alien system and myself, he succeeded in pointing out to me that my view of the world cannot be final because it is only an interpretation. My view of the world cannot be final because it is only an interpretation. Don't mistake the interpretation for the actuality. Capital P perceiving is to see past the interpretation to see the actuality. Okay. For the American Indian, perhaps for thousands of years, the vague phenomena we call sorcery has been a serious bona fide practice, comparable to that of our science. Our difficulty in understanding it stems, no doubt, from the alien units of meaning with which it deals. Now, he says American Indian here, and that's a very broad term and it's very rough, and it's not necessarily limited only, well, it's definitely not limited only to American Indians. Sorcery in all of its various forms has existed globally all around the world. Perceiving, connecting to alternate realities. This is something that's all over the world. Sorcery, in the way it typically is the utilization of alternate realities for the purposes of power, dominance, hierarchy, right? Nonsense power. Yes. Defeating
Yes.
enemies, blah and blah. Yeah? That's sorcery. But the underlying abstract, that of connecting to alternate realities for some sort of utilitarian purpose. Now, unfortunately, this is a very poor utilitarian purpose in dominance. Come on, seriously? Yeah? Rather than the purpose of understanding the true nature of reality. That would have been a much better purpose. I mean, you already got there, but you're just not thinking all the way through because your intent is not clear. You've got nonsense intent, and then it all gets corrupted, and you get into the BS that sorcery is because of lack of clarity of intent. Right? Way of impeccability, module 1, session 1 is clarity of intent. So you don't make this massive, great big mistake of completely missing the forest for the trees. Yeah, really sad, really sad. All right. So again,
Yes. Okay.
don't put too much into this for the American Indian. This is not limited to American Indians. Absolutely not. Right?
Oh no, no,
Especially since
no.
this originated in Central and Southern America.
This is.
At least,
I personally feel that it is not giving due respect to anyone belongs to anywhere,
correct,
that
correct.
you are trying to limit them, that oh, by claiming that okay, this is someone who get, like from Asia or from Europe or from anywhere, it has to be that the moreness
No,
needs to be considered as moreness. Few things we need
no,
to be at least very open minded now, because by doing
no,
so you are actually ruining the whole message what they were sharing
no,
before, and what they were trying to do, create that atmosphere where everyone can share equally and of course precisely and
no.
accurately and honestly. But now by claiming that okay, this belongs to that, you are disrespecting them. This is something I completely don't understand, that whoever it is from wherever they were, it doesn't matter, because their thoughts were universal, their sharing was universal, and it has to be. If even if it was not, make it so. So this is something, yes, we need to pay attention, and by that we really reach our time today for wrap up. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing. And
One moment, Bina. I know we
yes,
want to wrap up. We have a minute or two. I just want to read that last sentence there. Difficulty in understanding it stems, no doubt, from the alien units of meaning with which it deals. This is the power of abstract thinking, the ability to take our knowledge and extend it into new fields, into alien fields. The abstract stays the same. Yes, like I said, appropriateness applies in any circumstance, any reality. And Joseph has a comment. He says, pretty abstract discussion today. Right. Yes, it is. Why, Joseph? Because I'm reading and we are doing a capital R reading. I'm not sharing way of impeccability. I'm not sharing mourners culture directly. I am applying mourners culture and way of impeccability to the capital R reading of Carlos. As such, Carlos is getting into this academic set here. And so he's getting a bit vague because that's his predilection and his intent to sound academic and important and blah. And it's his way of trying to deal with something that is threatening to collapse his worldview. not just the worldview of the ordinary, but his inner worldview of what makes him important. Take away Carlos's academic accomplishments and proficiencies, and what is he really? He's just insecure. See, he's avoiding dealing with that awful truth. Yeah. So now we see the intent behind it all. And now we forced to go through this because we don't want to skip things in the reading, right? So
Yes.
I can't avoid it. However, then you say, Joseph goes on to say, pretty abstract discussion today. I could have used a little more concrete examples to better understand the underlying concepts. Joseph, yes, we will get to this more. But at this point, to understand what Carlos is really saying isn't actually worthwhile because he's not saying anything really, and he's getting it a little bit muddled. Yes, so there is no real value into understanding what is a misunderstanding. And I'm just saving us a lot of effort to do this. Yeah. So
Yes.
when we say here about concrete examples, at least from language of conceptuality, the concrete example is what we use to use concepts like impeccability, the concepts like capital P perceiving, concepts like appropriateness, concepts like discernment. Yes, that is the concrete, the concept, the concept. Yes, the language of conceptuality. If you want to get really concrete, I've recommended this before. Start up, make a file, get a notepad, however you want to do it, and right there, start Joseph's Dictionary of Power. Create your own dictionary, yeah, and put into it these profound, life-changing, most important conceptions. Yes, impeccability, abstraction, capital P perceiving. And then, since it's a dictionary of power, next to it, write your understanding, your extended understanding. Uh, at least initially, you're going to say, well, I know I don't quite understand this, but all right, I more or less, and then you start. And then as we go along, and you keep adding to the understanding, right? And don't delete and remove the initial ones. It's very, very valuable later on to go back and to see your initial understanding and then how it grows and how it evolves and how it changes. And then, of course, at some point, all the participants of Wave Impeccability experience this. It's very profound. They connect to connectivity. Yes, all the things start connecting, and oh my God, it's transformative. And they come alive, and it's the most joyful, wonderful thing. It's brilliant and it's awesome, right? So we have to build and trust at some point your brain is going to connect it all. Yes, Bina? Very important. Very important. All right, we'll end it here for today, and we'll continue tomorrow because now he brings up a wonderful point here. Don Juan introduces one of his team members of his party, as he calls it, right? So yeah, we'll get more concrete and more specific. But Joseph, I absolutely need to emphasize that we do need to learn to think abstractly. If we don't, we are going to have the problems that Carlos has. It is crucial to learn to think abstractly. Crucial. We cannot be afraid of abstraction. And our culture, unfortunately, teaches us to be afraid of abstraction. And abstraction is like, it's fuzzy, it's no. Basically, in many cultures, there's an association with abstraction with deception and BS and too complicated for me, and it makes me feel stupid, and therefore I don't want to. And no, come on, make it simple. Some things cannot be concretized. Some things are abstract, and we need to understand what abstract is. If you don't, then you're going to lose the power of abstraction. The power of abstraction. Yeah. It is an
Yes.
incredible power, and we just have to develop the skill. It's difficult at first, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, but we have to do it. Sorry, no way around it. Very
Yes.
important. Very, very important. Yes, Bina?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, sir,
All right.
for sharing. Thank you so much, Joseph, for
Bye
participating
bye,
and, of
everybody.
course, bringing so many different points. Of course, We will come back to this, and we will discuss tomorrow, because we are trying to limit this in an hour capsule. And because of course, TikTok, different platform we are using now. And yes, it was abstract, but my personal experience that I was so afraid of abstract conceptuality before that, like, okay, oh my God, it is getting too big. It is now connecting with everything. So how I'm going to focus that? But without having an abstract understanding of any concept, we are lost. We need that. We
Yes.
need that abstract conceptuality of every
It's
concept. We
crucial.
need that, because this is something, yes.
Crucial.
And
Crucial.
especially in terms of Don Juan, I want to understand, of course, his specifics also, because they are so important. As Sil says, as you were saying, so yes, I would love to hear more from you. And of course, I would love to hear Sil. Definitely. We will discuss this tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. If we miss you guys,
Yeah.
we are in the process of learning. We were very limited. We were just doing things on Facebook, not going on YouTube, and of course, Instagram and TikTok is a bit new for us, and we are learning. So help us in the process. If you are there, leave a comment. By doing so, it will be a great help. It will be a great help for us, because we will understand how the mechanism works on different platforms. And this is because it was just a very deliberate intent that we were not using. And now it's a different deliberate intent that we are using all these platforms. So please help us
Yeah.
by just showing your presence, making it obvious for us that, okay, so we can know, yeah, that you were there. And if you find some value, please do click like and subscribe to this channel, and share it with other friends, and leave a comment like Joseph. He's doing really a wonderful job here to support us, and also that he's sharing his thoughts about that. Norma, we miss you, and she's a regular participant here virtually, so we miss her also. And again, I would say that by doing so, ego comes in a very sneaky way when it comes to click like. You're not losing anything, but what we are doing is deliberately appreciating, which is definitely 100% in your own favor, because you are training your
Yeah.
online algorithm to bring more value in your life, which is directly connected to your life algorithm. If you want to have a precise and, of course, deliberately pick and choose value in your life, pay attention, be very obvious,
Yes.
make it obvious that you were there and you like it by clicking like and leave a comment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We will see you guys
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Quick note here for Joseph. Joseph, I'll send you an invite in Messenger tomorrow, so that you can be here from the beginning, and after Bina shares thought of the day and introduction, I am going to talk about the mechanism that will be employed for comprehension and receptivity. I want to talk specifically about receptivity, and this will greatly help in terms of what you were saying with this abstract today. And I understand your personal perception or connection here, angle, because you talked about this earlier from that crude perception, and how we can deal with that, and how to transcend that via receptivity. Yes. And this will be very specific and very detailed. And then also it lays open a path going forward, so that you have something that you can specifically do as we go through, and not me sharing, but to understand what Carlos and particularly what Don Juan is saying. I'm going to add a lot extra to it, yes, but still, just in this point of with capital P perceiving, yes, and I'm going to insist on calling it capital P perceiving, because otherwise we get into that visual, and especially when we have a very concrete mindset, a very practical orientated, as you say, crude mindset. We have to pay very particular attention to language, because language can put us into bubbles very easily, yeah, and we can get stuck there like Carlos does. So we want to avoid this. It's just the way our brains are set up. Language is crucially important, yeah. So the precise example, if you want concrete examples, look to the precise language that we use. It transforms our perception. Okay. Very practical. Very practical. All right. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. So I'll send you that
Tomorrow.
invite tomorrow, Joseph, and then I'll talk about it. I mean, I'm hoping you'll be able to be here tomorrow. If not, I'll repeat it whenever you are again. So hopefully. All
Okay.
right.
Bye for
Bye-bye,
now.
everybody.